Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Yolanda Calvo, and together with my colleague Karen Jacob, the topic of the presentation today is using Anchor and Flipgrid to provide opportunities for student autonomy in ESL speaking practice. So speaking has traditionally been neglected in language classrooms, especially if we compare it to the attention that is paid to written skills, vocabulary, or grammar. And language teachers, what we found in the COVID-19 pandemic is that the situation became even worse. And here we have three different scenarios that we have faced. So when the teaching was 100% online, students rarely voluntarily participated on the online platforms. Some of them did not even switch on their cameras, and on occasions it was difficult to control the language they used when we formed small groups on VB Collaborate, Zoom, etc. Regarding hybrid teaching methodologies, teaching speaking was even quite time consuming because the teacher had to constantly repeat what the face-to-face students had said because those who were connected online could not hear them, and sometimes we could also face technical problems. And finally, when we returned to the classroom, we found social distancing measures that made it difficult for the students to work in groups and also for the teacher to freely move around the classroom. So the direct consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic for language teachers is that we've had to find alternative ways of motivating our students to become autonomous speakers outside of the classroom. And so the aims of our topic today are to describe and compare two tools, so Anchor and Flipgrid, which has recently changed to Flip, and describe some activities that we've done with these resources during the pandemic. So I'll be talking a little bit about Anchor. So Anchor is a tool that's designed for creating podcasts. There are two different versions. So we have the website and the mobile app, which can easily be downloaded on Play Store. Both versions are automatically updated. And by this I mean that one student can be working on the website and recording an intervention, and another student on the mobile phone, and both versions are automatically updated. One of the advantages that we think that Anchor has in comparison to, for instance, WhatsApp, is that the students do not have to share any personal data. And by this, I mean they do not have to give their colleagues and us as teachers their telephone number. Also, Anchor is very flexible in the sense that it allows the students to change the order of their podcast and to move it upwards or downwards to relocate it. Each intervention can be individually edited, and also the students do not have to meet up in person nor record their interventions at the same time. And so we believe this, of course, saves them time, and this is especially important with our type of students because tourism undergraduates at our university commonly combine studying and working, and it's difficult for them to meet up face-to-face outside of the university classes. So now I'm just going to show you some of the functions and how the website and the app, the mobile version look like. So here we have different colors. So the red one would be the button that the students have to press if they want to record their interventions. Then it's also possible to upload previously recorded podcasts. We can also add songs from Spotify and also sound effects that are incorporated within Anchor. And here you have an example of what the tool looks like once we insert a transition and an intervention. So at the top, the pink play button would be a transition, and then the red one would be one of our students' recordings. And here some other functions that we can find. So in each of the interventions, we have these three dots at the end. And if we click on them, this will allow students to edit that specific audio, to download it as a separate file to the whole podcast, and even to delete it if it's necessary. And finally, on the left hand of each of the interventions and the transitions, if we press on them, it's the option that allows us to move the intervention or the transition upwards or downwards. So regarding the mobile phone, very similar and I think even easier. So all the students have to do is to press this red button for record, and finally at the end, when they are happy with their intervention, they just press the save button and it automatically updates on the system. So now I'm just going to briefly explain how I used Anchor in one of my subjects. So the subject was English 3, and this is part of an ongoing teaching innovation project. And you have the title there in Spanish. And so English 3 is a subject within the degree of tourism. And at the end of this subject, the students have to hand in a final project, which is the recording of a 20 to 25-minute business meeting video. Each of the students have a different role. So there's a chairperson, a secretary, and a representative of 3 different fields. And normally what the students have to do is to hand in the final version of their video at the end of the semester. And so for this reason, they do not normally have a lot of time to practice this activity in class. However, with this project, I'm offering them a more continuous type of assessment, because what I'm giving them is the chance to pre-record some of the video scenes and to receive my feedback in order to improve their English at different grammatical, phonological, etc. levels, in order to improve for the final video. So here is an example of some of the instructions I give them, for instance, for the podcast number 1, so for the scene that's on the preliminary arrangements. And so here we can see that the first step is that the chairperson and the secretary have to have a brief conversation to discuss the objective of the meeting, choose possible dates and the venue. Then the secretary has conversations or telephones all of the representatives. Maybe they will have to contact some of the members again because there's a problem with one of their availabilities. And then finally, they get in contact with the chair again and decide the final date for the meeting, and also send a confirmation message to the rest of the members. And so very quickly, at the end of the semester, I gave the students a questionnaire asking regarding their opinions about this, and over 90% of the students believe that Anchor is an easy and useful tool for practicing foreign languages. They believe that the vocabulary they use in these podcasts they will reuse it in their future professional lives. They have developed their spoken skills more than they would have with just classroom instruction. They think they've improved at a phonetic, lexical, and grammatical level. They found the recording of the video, the final video, easier. And finally, regarding the feedback that I gave them, they rated it as detailed and useful. So Karen, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Yolanda. Okay, so I'm going to just give some information about Flip. According to their webpage, Flip is a free video discussion app where curious minds connect in safe, small groups to share videos, build communication, and learn together. So it's safe, inclusive, and accessible. Okay, so why we'd want to use this for our ELT classes? Well, basically, as Yolanda said, we want to promote autonomous speaking practice in our students when they're learning a foreign language. It was useful in the COVID-19 lockdown, obviously, because it allowed the students to be autonomous in their learning, and it encouraged them to practice the speaking skill that was becoming difficult for them online. Okay. So it's also easy for teachers to check on their low visibility students. They can, you always have students that maybe, sit at the back of the class, a bit shy, don't like to join in, think that what they have to say is not maybe interesting for the others. So it does give them a voice, which is good. And it allows for individual and specific feedback because the teacher can either give written feedback or record a video for students. So it's very useful. Okay, so a little bit about the mechanics of it then. Students have to join either on the app or on the web page, either with a Gmail account or a Microsoft account. And then a teacher, when the teacher sets it up, can set up different groups. And then within those groups, the teacher can set up different topics, as you can see here in the images. So when you set up a group, you automatically get a topic there, which is Say Hello on Flipgrid, which is one I always like to use because it's a way of students getting to know the app, how to use it, and also giving a little bit of information on themselves for the teacher. So you can see here that I've got a few students, Jessica, Aina, for example, and that they've given their videos in. And then I am able to give a comment back. As I said before, it can be written and it can also be a video, so I can record a video. So basically, as a teacher, then you create a group and then you can get a group code that you can pass on to your students. And then within that, you can create a topic. So the students can either enter with the topic code or with the basic group code. When you set up your topic, you have some basic details, and then you have a few other settings which can be useful, such as setting a date. So if you want to set it for homework, you can do that. And you can also decide whether it's going to be available to all of the group or it's private for the teacher to give the feedback. The students, as their view, would see this, and if they go into the group, they'll see the different activities. You can see here that we've got the first activity, One Night in Bangkok, and then they've got the Hello, I Am activity as well. Okay, so when it comes to recording, again, very simple. The students would go into either the app or the online page, and they would just press add a response to whatever the activity was. And you can see here that you can see me recording a response. Once you've recorded, you can edit it, you can repeat it if you didn't like it, you can add pictures, you can add background music, so it's quite entertaining for the students. And when you're happy with it, you then save, and then it will be available for the teacher to have a look at. So there's quite a lot of different activities that you can do with Flip, and I'm just going to explain a couple that I've done or ones that could be done. Give feedback on a topic that has been discussed in class. As I said before, for those who don't necessarily speak too much in class, it gives them the opportunity to give their opinion on something, or just simply reading an excerpt from a text in the course book was also good for the students. They could maybe tell their classmates about a book, a film, a series, online game, anything that they've seen recently and would like to share with their classmates. Or they could create a vlog, and allow classmates to comment it. Obviously, this would be one of those activities that would be more public, just to the group, not to anybody else, okay? Maybe they want to just give their reaction to some recent event, some piece of news that they have liked or not liked. Another activity that can be done is that students read the answers to an exercise. It could be a grammar exercise, a reading comprehension, anything really, but at least they're practicing their speaking and pronunciation. Maybe they can have a little like contest, talk about someone or something, and they have to guess what they're talking about. Another interesting one is ask about something that they've not understood in class. So basically with a language class, it's probably going to concern grammar, but then the teacher can give feedback, or maybe even a classmate can help them out. This is also a very useful one for teachers who are not necessarily teaching language, but science, geography, history. Maybe a student hasn't understood something and they can ask, and the other students can have a go at explaining what to do. Also useful for presentations or even presentation practice. So you can see here, these are just a few ideas, but the list could go on and on and on. So very useful. So now then just a few conclusions about what we found using both of these tools, Anchor and Flipgrid. So students are working more autonomously, which is one of our main aims for these students. Anchor is best for group work or pair work, whereas Flipgrid is probably a bit better for individual speaking practice, but it can become group work when we maybe have a more public activity where students can give their comments, either written or they can create little videos. Both of these resources are free online, so they can be used on a computer or as an app on their smartphones, which is great because they can be used anywhere. That means they can be sitting in a park, somewhere nice, and create their videos. So it's very useful and a bit more encouraging for them as well, more motivating. It's very easy to connect to these different activities. Once they've gone into them once, it's usually saved on their phone, so it's fairly easy. These videos and podcasts can be private or just for the teacher. They can get feedback, which can be written or spoken with Flip, so that's quite good, and other students can also give comments. They can be used for teaching in any context, as we've said, not just for language acquisition. The activities in this case were designed to be carried out during COVID-19, but we have continued to use them, and we will continue to use them even more because we found them interesting and motivating, as seen by the feedback from the students with Anchor. And these tools basically help improve students' spoken skills and overcome pronunciation problems. And for a little bit more information on this, have a look at our other video. Anchor is a useful tool for enhancing students' oral communication proficiency. So that's it from the pair of us, and please we welcome any questions that you may have on the topic of our video. Thank you.